We love cutting dies. You love cutting dies. We all love cutting dies. So we have a brand new one. Got that?
Yes, and we especially love this cutting die, the
Yes.
rose spray cutting die. It's just beautiful, and it has flower shadows.
And wait till you see what the design team has done with it.
Come play with us.
And here it is, the rose spray. Now, you really can't see the detail in the cutting dies, but there's the shadows that you were talking about.
Right, so easy to back the flowers that are on there.
And here is it all die cut out of simple white cardstock. See why we're so excited?
It is beautiful. And you're going to get the flower shadows so that you can actually back 1, 2, 3 of the 4 flowers that are on there.
In fact, here is our first project. Well, before I do that, I just want to point out that you do get ideas on the back of the package because we're hot off the press, of course. So as we go to our very first card, and I think this is just such a beautiful combination of products, and so classically done. So we've got the silver metallic paper, which is a 12 by 12 sheet, and then we've got the smoke suede, and they're again so classic, and it's also been added with the thin line, the silver thin line dazzles.
Right. So it's just a nice combination of silvers, grays, blacks, whites. So it's very monochromatic, and just
black and white cardstock.
Yes, and just a beautiful look. And I want to point out with that, with the die itself, or with the cut piece, the die cut. Once you've cut it, you know, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, you can turn it over. In this case, we turned it over, and then you've got the shadow pieces that you can cut. And then you figure out which way they go. I always have to sort of move them around a little bit, but they will fit perfectly on the back, and I think it goes, I think I've got it. Yes, this way. And it will, let me set that down. It's going to make it easier. And then you just glue it in place onto there, just so, and you've got the perfect shadow for the back here. But I also want to point out that for the flowers, these flowers, they are exactly the same but opposite. So when you cut 2, you're going to turn one over to fit perfectly on the back, and the other one will fit just so.
And if you're a little intimidated by gluing those tiny areas of the black on top of the white, our recommendation is the Specialist acrylic glue. That needle nose applicator is really going to do the trick, and it's nice to have that cap so you're not going to lose it. Speaking for myself.
Works perfectly.
Now the other thing in this, keeping in the silver, white, and black, is the inside out greeting dazzles. So you make me smile. Thank you. And how pretty that...
To reverse the process a little bit.
Yeah, the colors. So we've got the black shadows against the white cutting die, black cutting die against the white shadows on the front. So nice to think about, oh, you can cut it apart too. And thank you, and then the thin line dazzle. So very classic looking, very...
And simple.
Yeah, very, very nice. And now here is the same cutting die done in more, well, actually out of pattern papers.
Out of pattern paper, it's a little bit more muted, and it's just so lovely. I like that look quite a bit. You can actually see the pattern if you use a small enough pattern paper. This is from the Charming paper pack. And I also love the outer edges. It's got roses that sort of match that perfectly.
It does, doesn't it? Right. And speaking of the outside, we've used thin line dazzles. In fact, they're used often in these projects, and just a really nice border, and what a beautiful look. And the those are black jewel dazzles in the centers of those flowers.
Right there in the center, so very pretty. But something that we haven't even noticed yet is that when you open this up, so you need to open this card.
Oh, it's a window.
It's a window, surprise. It would be just like that. So Paulette didn't know that.
I didn't.
And if you sent this to someone, they wouldn't even notice it until they open it. What a nice little surprise.
Oh, how nice.
Isn't that great? So you only have to do it once. You do it on the inside, and the window will look through. And it's set on top top of a piece of vellum, actually.
That's pretty.
To give kind of a nice muted look in the
Again,
background.
kind of that ghosted feeling for the whole thing. And I do love how the Charming papers, as many of our papers are, it has this gradation. So the lighter down here, darker toward the fold, just really pretty.
Right.
And the little tags.
Tiny tags and little labels.
This has been used. There is a cutting die, but there's also a template. So you have your choice.
You prefer.
Right. And it just works beautifully. And adding
the tiny words and phrases dazzles on there. They have those little emphasis pieces here, so those are kind of cute.
So very pretty.
That's my word.
Ribbon.
That's my new word. My emphasis pieces.
Emphasis. That's your new. That's your.
Because I couldn't think of embellishment.
There you go. Now we're going to go to yet another
Love
look.
This one.
That's so pretty, and again, such a rich collection. So we had the silver metallic paper, so now we have the gold metallic paper.
Right, and then combine that with pink. What a gorgeous look. And this is also using the foiled fancies, the flowers foiled fancies, and they just combine perfectly with it. So you have that entire spray here. So the shadows are used with white cardstock. So you're just going to place them on top of these foiled fancies, and you just sand them a little bit. Just take a sanding block, run it across the top of that foiled fancy, and beautiful look. You know, it actually tells you how to do that on the back of the package.
It will show you that, give you lots of ideas. And I just love the intermixing of these. And then actually another of the foil fancies was foam tape in the center. And then we did add the
bling or rhinestones.
Right, and this comes, I think it's 72 to a pack, and you see all 3 sizes in it.
That's what I love about those. All 3 sizes, so you can add the tiny ones for the centers of the flowers and nice big ones for the centers of those foiled fancies.
And on the inside, oh wow.
A completely different look.
Wow.
This is a Teresa card, and that tells you right there. The front, they could be two separate cards.
Again, very classic, this time with gold and black. And
nice little surprise.
Gorgeous.
And she used gold embossing powder for, there's a little hello right here, and then the sentiment on the inside as well.
It's just beautiful. And this was using the gold thin line dazzles. Like I said, for some reason, they're used a lot on these projects. Sanding just reveals the silver below, but that's really fun. Wow, very, very neat.
So I think that's 2 cards.
Yeah,
that's 2 cards. So you just got 2 instead of 1.
But I do like, it's like the window card. You open it and you go, oh,
surprise.
Surprise, nice surprise. So, but again, that interlocking is very, very pretty. Now here is where it's standing all by itself. And I think this was actually on the package. And so you can see. So you're going to show us this?
I'm going to show you this and talk a little bit about it. So these are on the Bohemian Dreams papers. So I just love that sort of fading away, sort of a dreamy look. And I sort of wanted a dreamy inking of these as well. And so I did that in a layering process. So let's start with what I have here. I have the Tim Holtz mini ink sets, and I used a number 13, which I love in these tins, and I keep them in here, but I'm only going to work with the Abandoned Coral, but I used that set that you see there. I think I used 13 and 15. Look in the gallery, because I used orange as well. So I'm pretty sure that one and that one. And I started with the green, and I used a cosmetic wedge. So I've got the piece cut out, and I just focused with the green on the leaves. So this is pretty much just what I did. Went around and hit the leaves.
And it looks like you're not worried if you went off a little bit onto a flower.
In this case, I could have covered the whole flowers. It wouldn't matter, and I'll show you why in just a moment. I'm only worried about making sure I get all of the leaves and the stems, and then I actually left a little bit of white around the edges. It gives a nice highlight.
It does.
Now I'm going to move on to what I did to the shadows. For the shadows, I just put a little bit of the orange on the centers and the Abandoned Coral, which is kind of it's a coral look. I'd use that around the edges. So now I've got what I'm going to back those flowers with. So that's going to back those perfectly. Now, for the centers of the flowers, I have another piece entirely.
Oh.
Okay. You're actually going to cut 3.
Tricky woman, you.
You're going to cut 3. And then these, I'm going to go just on the flowers. I don't care about the leaves. I don't care if I hit the leaves, because once I ink the flowers, all of the flowers, then I cut it apart.
Okay.
So I just cut off the leaves that you see and around the outer edges, so I have that piece, and then I take that and I glue it right back on top, so I'm layering those flowers. I did that, number one, because it creates a little bit of depth, but mostly because I could very perfectly ink the flowers and not worry about the ink, the inking of the rest of it.
What a great idea.
And then I did it on a third one. I just did the orange in the center and only cut out the center of the flowers. And if we look back at the card, you can see
so
the
that's
result.
where you're getting the dimension. Okay.
So they are just stacked on top of each other, 3 different die cuts, and then glued in place with that specialist acrylic glue, and then you've got that shadow on the back of all of them.
And I do like how you left the white at the tips.
Yeah,
that
it's
really
just kind
is
of a
pretty.
little bit of a halo technique there.
Wow, it's such a beautiful look and such a delicate look, but you're really, you're cutting, you're inking, you're doing all sorts of things,
but that's
and
the
it's fine.
focus. And then everything else is simple. Tear some paper, glue it here, add your dazzles, add your twine.
Card greeting dazzles.
Yeah, card greeting dazzles. Happy birthday. I love those. It's very script, and you can go off the edge and cut off the edge, whatever you want to do.
Very pretty. And is there an inside?
Yep.
There is. So just simply with love and doing the tearing, so bringing that. Could have done a little flower, you know.
Didn't need it though.
You didn't.
It's all on the front. It was all on the front.
It is. Beautiful. Now we have one more, and this is, you know, I'm not feeling the die cut though.
No, it was used, but it was used for stamping, and I took this directly from one of Teresa's DVDs.
Yes, Stamp Camp 5.
Right, and where she took a piece of craft foam. So here's the craft foam. You can get, this is a pretty thick craft foam. You can get it thinner, that will work too. I actually used the cutting die, place that directly onto the craft foam, run it through your machine, and it ends up looking like this.
Right.
And then you start popping it out. I love how easily it pops out of the craft foam. It's just fun.
Even as delicate
as
it
it is. It has a fun
is.
feel to it. And then you just start popping all of those little pieces out. Once you've done that, I've got the piece here, and I've got it sitting on white paper because I took the back of it, and I took the repositional easy dots, and I just ran it all the way across every edge, every piece of it. Those repositional dots stick to it, and then you can use it to place on an acrylic block. Oh, I want to get just so it's all fitting on there.
Right.
Press it in place. Guess what? Now I have a stamp.
Wow.
Ready to go.
A beautiful stamp.
And I have the paper that I'm going to stamp on, just to show you how that's done. And I used 2 inks. I used fluid chalk ink, Black Cherry and Concord. And I'm going to start with this one. Go ahead and ink it, and you'll see you can just ink directly on.
So now every cutting die, I know what you're thinking, okay, what cutting dies do I have, and how can I turn them into stamps?
Exactly.
Well, this is how you turn them into stamps.
And ever since I saw Teresa do it, you've probably seen me do this on a webisode once or twice, because I really like the process.
Because it's brilliant.
It's just kind of fun, and then I just sort of go on and off and stamp it wherever I want. I'm not sure if I'm getting it where I got on the card there, but there you go.
Wow, look at that.
Beautiful look. And then for all of the other areas, I actually stamped off so I could use a second image and just sort of get some of the other areas, and you get a lighter look.
Okay, let me bring this finished card in so you can see that big one, and then you can see the stamped off ones were used. And this is, of course, using the center step. Either the die cut cards, which I think is what you used, or you can use the template, and it just does a great job. Now the only thing that's been added, of course, the papers and some silver jewel dazzles just for the centers.
Just a little bit. It's a nice light muted look, which I loved for this card.
Just a little bit of shine.
A little bit of ribbon just wrapped around the center of that center step card.
Even that is a muted, it's a kind of a sheer. And then the stamping that's been done was done with heartfelt greetings. So may your heart and soul find peace and comfort. So very
lots
pretty.
Of beautiful looks.
Yes,
with
out of
just 3 little cutting dies.
And we didn't even do embossing powder at all. So
we didn't.
More things that you can do, more ways you can use it, and that's what we love about cutting dies.
Yep.